Okay, good evening. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a hybrid public meeting on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham, Eastham Wetlands Protection Bylaw. This meeting is being broadcast on Public Access Channel 8. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 8 and meeting videos can be found on YouTube. Before we begin, a quick reminder, while our meetings are relatively informal, the Commission uses a simplified version of Robert's Rules. The chair runs the meeting and everyone should speak through the chair after being recognized. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. We allow discussion between commissioner, staff, and applicants, and may extend that to abutters. For NOIs and RDAs, the applicant will present first, followed by discussion with the commission and staff. Once the commission questions have flowed, abutters will have a chance to speak, followed by other members of the public as time allows. The chair may set time limits as needed. Please keep your microphones muted unless it is your turn to speak, and let the chair know if you plan to record the meeting. Most importantly, please be respectful of others so that we can keep the meeting productive and focused. And I'm going to take attendance and then we'll start. Janet Benjamin.
Here.
Joanne Cossett.
Here.
Greg Douglas.
Here.
Mike Rivers. Mike? I can't hear you. I see your hand. I'll take that as here, but your audio doesn't seem to be working. Cinnamon Swabble.
Test.
Okay. So we're gonna Cinnamon? Here. Cinnamon, could you turn your volume up just a little bit?
Sure.
Chuck Wagner is off tonight and Karen Strauss, I am here. So first up tonight is our public comment period. This is an opportunity for anybody who wishes to speak on briefly on something not on the agenda to address the commission. If you are interested in doing so, please make yourself known. Okay, and seeing no one. First up tonight is a request for determination of applicability filed by Sam and Hannah Pieper. Applicant proposes to upgrade the septic system at property located at 5 Burnley Way, map 18, parcel 303C. And the applicant has asked to withdraw the project. The engineer has redesigned it so it is outside of jurisdiction. So if we might have a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Move to accept the withdrawals.
Second.
And second, Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to give the commission a quick update. As Cinnamon and Mike noticed this morning, this property wasn't staked out for the meeting tonight, and I have since received an update from Jason Ellis, and he's been able to redesign the proposed septic system so that all the components are outside of jurisdiction.
Great.
Okay, and having had a motion and a second, Janet? We're voting.
Yes.
Janet? Yes, okay. Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Greg? Oh, I did Greg. Cinnamon?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next up is a request for determination of applicability filed by Marcia Bissell. Applicant proposes to remove 6 trees and prune 1 tree at property located at 60 Briggsfield Road, map 08, parcel 308H. And is someone here to speak on this? Marcia, if you would unmute. Welcome.
Hello.
If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
This is Marcia Bissell.
Okay. Do you want to give us a brief overview of your project?
Sure. My primary interest in the request for my having 6 trees removed and 1 trimmed back is that they are in extremely close proximity to my house. In fact, some are over my house, as the folks who came this morning to the site visit, I think, were able to see. And I did have to replace the roof this spring. And everyone involved, whether it be folks giving me estimates for the roof, the folks who did the roof, they all said the trees are too close, and it's going to shorten the life of what is now my new roof. So that is the main purpose of my request.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Mike, since he was out there for a site visit, if he might give us an overview of what he observed.
Sure. We saw several large trees that were healthy. There were areas to the side of the property where mitigation could be considered. Don't have much else to report.
I'm going to ask if anybody on the commission has questions. I know Cinnamon, you're out there as well.
Feel some of the trees on the, I guess it would be the north side of the home. I don't have it up in front of me. I can pull it up. It could be trimmed. Definitely there's an oak in the back that she proposed trimming, not taking down, but they're definitely coming over her roof. The pines are not in great shape. There was evidence of some borer on one of them, and I feel with time those would become problematic.
Okay. Marcia, are there any of the trees that you would feel comfortable pruning instead of removing? I should ask, have you've had a tree guy come and look at them? Is that
Yes,
correct?
I had Joe Zabelski come, and he's the one that actually, with his knowledge of trees, gave me some guidance on which ones he, as a tree guy, is most concerned about in terms of impacting my house. And I'm not looking to cut down trees for no reason. I love trees, but these are close, and so many have branches that are above. The pine trees are the ones that are my greatest concern because they're the ones that are apt to snap and fall. But again, I'm just trying to give my roof a little bit more clearance and sunshine. Again, just for the safety and well-being of my house.
I understand. Alex?
Yeah, I'll just give, based off my observations, I thought perhaps there was an opportunity to prune back the crabapple and then both the oaks in the backyard. And then, as Cinnamon mentioned, both pine trees looked like they were not healthy, and so it made sense in my mind to have the 2 pine trees removed, and then the locust as well, being a non-native species.
Okay.
The crabapple, which is in the front, when I was thinking about how could I just trim it? But if you look at trimming it, the tree is going to look really lopsided. I also have concerns about the tree's health. It has already, some of the lower limbs have already been trimmed by the previous owner. They're cut, and the leaves, when the leaves came out this spring, I was surprised to see that some of them were dropping, and they weren't, they were green, fresh leaves. They dropped onto the ground, and now there are some dead leaves. We didn't talk about that this morning. I frankly didn't come to mind, but I'm concerned about the health of that tree. It is a beautiful tree in the 3 weeks in May when it's blossoming. I'd be concerned about just trimming it because I think it's going to look, and it's smack dab in front of the house. I just think it's going to look kind of odd because it's hard to explain it.
I think I understand where you're coming from. If I'm picturing it correctly, I think there's two main leaders on the top of the crab apple. So if you were to prune one, it would look lopsided. Okay.
Again, I'm not looking to cut down trees. When I bought the house in December, I had no interest in cutting down trees, but it was really more around the problems I had with the original roof and discussions with roofers and, really kind of looking around at neighbors and my previous house in Yarmouthport. I always tried to keep the trees away from the house. So.
Right. I think we understand that need and wish not to have a tree come down on your house during one of our storms. Yeah. So, if we let you take the crabapple down, would you be willing to mitigate that with perhaps another fruit tree or another native?
Absolutely. I was thinking, I like evergreens, and you can get some smaller evergreens that do not grow as tall as pitch pines. And so, I don't know, but something that we would find right here on Cape Cod in the woods, in the seashore property, whatever. I'm happy to do that.
Or perhaps something that replaces habitat value for habitat value, because the crabapple does provide wildlife food and
Right.
habitat that an evergreen would not replace.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So like a fruit tree or something like that? Or I'd have to learn about what would be a good replacement for it. What I would do though is I would plant it further away from the house. There's a stone wall in the front, but I'd put it again away from the house, in that same area, but again, not so close to the house.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a fruit tree, but something that does provide some wildlife fodder and stuff throughout the year would be a good replacement. There's a lot of nice native trees. I'm sure Alex could help you with that.
Well.
And I volunteer Alex all the time. But as to the other trees, were you thinking of mitigation for those as well, or?
I wasn't. The property has a lot of trees on it. So while, to me, it sounds like a lot of trees to cut down, 6, within feet of those 6 trees, there are other trees. I don't know. The one, it just, I hadn't thought of that. I'm not opposed to it, but again, I've got a lot of trees, and the folks who came on the site visit hopefully can verify that.
Right. I'm going to go back to Mike and Cinnamon and ask them to weigh in here.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I thought to the left of the house, there was some space for a tree or two, looking at your house from the driveway over to the left.
Yep.
There seems to be some space over that way. It would not be these would not be trees that would be falling on your house. They would be
Yeah.
smaller,
Yeah.
but there was some space over there, and I get it. And frankly, it may shield you from your neighbors. So that's
Yeah. Mhm.
another thing that you could benefit from on that side of the house.
It,
What do you
it
think?
is it is a heavily wooded yard, and
Mhm.
but I do think mitigation would be good over, like you said, on the left side of the house. It doesn't have to be a pitch pine, but something maybe native that is not going to grow as big. It's seems like it's a shady area. It could be prone to wet, so maybe blueberries or something along that line. I don't, that it's not going to grow up to be
Yeah.
another big tree, but to
Yeah.
fill in the space. You're going to also be opening up light over there as well once those trees are removed, which kind
Right.
of opens your options up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a
So-
good point. No, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, Mike and Cinnamon, did you have a number in mind?
I,
I'd say 2 for 1 if you're going to go for not something as big as a pitch pine, something low growing, but native that will do well over there.
and these are for I would say 2 to 1, but for the ones that you're going to completely remove, not the trees that are going to be trimmed.
Okay.
Okay, Janet, you have,
I have a few questions. Were the trees marked so you knew which ones they wanted to take down? And which, it says one tree would be pruned. You knew which one that is?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's an
Okay.
oak in the back. It's a beautiful oak that she's going to leave and prune. And they were very well marked, and she was there to also walk us around.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And can any of the trees that she wants to take down be trimmed so that they don't have to come down all the way? Or could some be left as snags? And or,
Maybe both the pines on the one side were double trunked, so they split. So I would be a little hesitant to maybe turn those into snags. I'm not sure how the commission feels about that. And there's a lot going on in the yard.
all right, so you don't have an impression as to whether they could, some or any could be trimmed. They'd have to come down?
The pines, I
Pines,
think,
definitely. Yeah, the pines definitely. They're very tall pitch pines. They're very close to the house. I don't think there was any issue when we saw those because they are very large and they're very close to the house. I think the crabapple Alex has already addressed. Alex, your hands up. I'd defer to you about what you'd recommend.
Yeah, I didn't see any opportunities to keep any snags on this property,
Mhm.
Janet. But as Mike mentioned, I think it's appropriate to take out, both pines. They're not in good health.
Mhm.
The locust as well, being a non-native species to the Cape. It looks like we'll allow the crabapple too with mitigation, and then there looks like there's an opportunity to perhaps prune both of the oaks instead of complete removal.
All right, well, from what I'm hearing from all of you, I would like to say I concur with Karen's comments. I would like a fruit tree also to replace the one that's going to be cut down. And then I would like trees to replace the other non-fruit trees.
it seems like if it's well vegetated that we could probably be okay with either trees to replace or some shrubs, uh, as Mike had suggested. Does that sound about right, Mike?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of trees on the lot. She's taking a lot of trees. I get that, but there are a lot of trees on the lot. I'm not trying to add another 6 or 7 trees on her lot. I don't think that's necessary. I think a couple 3 would be really nice, and I think she's got space to the left to place them. There's some space over there, and I don't think that's going to be close to her house. They're shorter. Whatever gets planted would be shorter. Whatever gets planted would not long-term affect her house. I think we're not trying to just fix a problem today, but also not create problems for 20 years from now.
Joanne?
So me in general, I support what everyone's saying, but I do prefer if we're taking out a number of trees that we do at least a 1-to-1 mitigation for trees, unless, I will also kind of leave it to the discretion of Alex if they are working on the project and it seems like there really are too many trees. I'd be okay with that, but my preference is for that one, at least the 1-to-1 replacement if we can manage it.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, so to recap, it sounds like we're okay with the crab apple being replaced with a native fruit tree or something that does provide wildlife fodder, pruning the 2 oak trees, removing the 2 pines and the locust with 2-to-1 mitigation, and half of that should be trees and the other half shrubs. Does that sound okay, Marcia?
I think so. I hope there's going to be enough light out there to, provide sunlight. There'll be enough sunlight to support the growth of smaller trees, but I'll give it a try.
All right, thank you. So if we could have a motion to approve with that as a condition and the special conditions for tree pruning and removal.
Move to approve with 2-to-1 mitigation, half would be shrubs, and special conditions for tree pruning and removal. And did I miss anything?
You missed the crabapple? You
Yes,
missed the
please
pruning
replace
the
the crab
how
apple.
about I repeat it and then you can go
Just
from
say
there.
yes. Okay.
So remove the crab apple, replace with a native fruit tree or a tree that would provide wildlife fodder, prune the 2 oaks, remove the 2 pines and the 1 locust with 2-to-1 mitigation for that, of which half will be trees and half will be shrubs, plus the special conditions for tree pruning and removal.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Joanne?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you for your consideration
you.
tonight and for coming out today. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Right. Next, we have a certificate of compliance filed by Eric and Dale Stamfel for SE 19-1888 for a screen porch, replacing and expand deck, rehab an existing structure, vegetation removal, septic system upgrade, and water line installation at property located at 50 Hatch Way, map 14, parcel 105. And I know this is a Jason Ellis project. He's not here to speak to that tonight, it looks like. So we'll go right to Alex.
I was just going to mention, Jason has a scheduled conflict with the meeting in Brewster tonight. But, I'll let the commission speak to this certificate of compliance request. Overall, it's pretty good today.
Okay, so I know that Mike and Cinnamon and Alex were out there this morning. So I'm going to ask Mike if he could just review what it looked like. And
Yeah. The 3 of us were out there and walked around the property and compared the plantings with what was on the plan and didn't find any discrepancies at all. The plants themselves looked very healthy. They'd been planted about a year ago and looked great. There was no extra sprinklers. They did have an outside sprinkler that it looked like they were using more for grass than to just a hand, one of those rotating sprinklers that they had, but there was no underground sprinklers or even on top sprinklers. Plants all look good. The house looks beautiful. The only thing we noticed is that there's still a lot of plastic and edges at the limit of work that should get removed as part of the certificate of compliance, but everything looked good.
Cinnamon, anything to add? Okay.
Agree with
And
all
any-
that Mike said.
All right. Any comments from anybody? Okay. If we could have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for SE 19-1888 with the condition that they clean up the plastic and other debris along the edges.
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, hold on a sec. Alex, you,
Yeah,
Did you wanna-
the debris and the plastic was part of the limit of works. That's the silk
Okay.
fence and the straw wattle. So,
Oh.
you know, I'll make note that that should be removed.
okay. Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
Joanne,
yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, next we have certificate of compliance for filed by John and Suzanne Casali for SE 19-1865 for the construction of a Sandra fence at property located at 1145 Kingsbury Beach Road, map 10, parcel 330A. And is someone here to speak to this?
Laura, we did meet Laura out on site today,
Right.
and she did mention she had a conflict with Brewster as well. So
Okay. So I think we can go ahead and then if we need to continue, we will. So Cinnamon, do you want to start us off with what you observed?
absolutely, the fence is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's holding the sand. The beach grass looks beautiful and healthy. And there's Dusty Miller popping through it. It's everything you would want with a situation like this. I guess there's nourishment as needed, but there's absolutely nothing that is needed. So it looked great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear the Dusty Miller popping out everywhere because we had a
Not
conversation.
everywhere, but it's
Well-
it's there and it's very healthy and beautiful. So
Because when we permitted this, we had a conversation about planting something other than just beach grass, and Dusty Miller was what we came up with. So I'm glad to see that's doing okay. I
It's
did have a question when you're out there. Is this sand accumulating behind the fence? Because I know Mike shared pictures where the sand is accumulating in front of the fence, but I was interested in that. Alex?
Yeah, to answer your question, the sand is accumulating behind the fence, and as Cinnamon mentioned, you know, it seems to have done so at a rate that has allowed, you know, vegetation to also grow through it as well. So it seems like, you know, overall this has been, you know, a very successful project. As Cinnamon also mentioned, there is a condition for a very modest amount of nourishment that is to be done at the owner's discretion. I think it would be appropriate to include this as an ongoing condition if there ever is a need to do a small amount of nourishment in the future.
But it does sound like it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Do we know when it was last nourished?
I do not.
Okay. Any questions from anybody else? Okay, then if we could have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for SE 19-1865 with the ongoing conditions number 34, which is Sandra fence maintenance, 35 annual beach nourishment, 36 nourishment sand requirements, and number 37 prohibitions.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, next we have certificate of compliance for filed by Ralph Sawicki, SE 19-1531, for installation of a rock revetment at property located at 295 Shirtlift Road, map 07, parcel 190. And is someone here to speak on this? Tim.
Yep.
Okay.
If you got anything, I'm standing by.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna then ask Mike if he wants to just take us through what you saw out there this morning.
Sure. This is a property on the Bayside with an old wooden bulkhead. Tim, I'm not sure when it was put in, but my parents put one in the 1970s.
295 Shirtlift is a rock revetment.
Oh, sorry. I'm confused. That was not one.
You're looking at you're way ahead at Bayview.
Yep, sorry,
This
that's
is
Bayview.
295 Shirtlift. The certificate of compliance for a rock revetment.
Sorry. This is a rock revetment that's already there on Shirtlift that needs nourishment, it seemed. And that was a concern we had, but otherwise the toe stones look good. The coastal dune looks good, but there was a lack of nourishment there.
Right. It's my understanding, or from the application, that it's missing a couple of years of nourishment, and
That's
that the
correct.
new owners. Okay. So the new owners will have to catch up, and we'll talk about that. But you're saying that it otherwise looks like the revetment is in compliance, aside from
That's
the
correct.
nourishment.
Yes.
Okay. So we do need to catch up with the nourishment and kind of tie that up together along with the certificate of compliance. So Alex and I were talking about this, and we thought that perhaps we could approve the certificate of compliance, but also issue a friendly enforcement order that would detail when the nourishment would get done. So we were thinking that they would do, lost my notes. We were thinking that they would do a double nourishment in the fall and then nourish as usual in spring 2027, and would then be caught up. Does that sound about right, Tim?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, I had a question. The property that we're talking about here is currently up for sale and will probably be sold, or is in play right now.
Right.
What will happen in terms of the nourishment commitment when someone else buys the property? I understand the estate that owns the property now is making the commitment to do it, but the estate probably will not own the property come spring or fall of next year. How do we get assurances that the new owner will do their nourishment?
Do you want me to take this too, or
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the nourishment is on the deed, and it's a requirement, and then the enforcement order will go with the property now, but it runs with the land. So whoever buys the property will have this as a deed restriction and an obligation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and so this property, I believe, is under agreement at this point in time. So I will be forwarding the final certificate of compliance to them for just part of their record, and I will make them aware of their responsibility ongoing. But that's what the order. That's what the ongoing conditions are for. Is just exactly that. I think your concern is, will they be aware of that, and will they be responsive to that? And so that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. And I would think that our staff could send out another copy of the enforcement order once the property changes hands, so that they are aware of the requirement.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, and the with a note that this is a friendly enforcement order, that this is just getting everything on the record, and that as long as they comply, that there's not going to be much more to to do about it. But if they don't, then they're out of compliance and other things will happen. So, any other questions for Tim? Okay, so if we might have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for SE 19-1531 with the ongoing conditions, number 28, which is nourishment, and number 29, which is ongoing maintenance, along with the friendly enforcement order detailing that there would be a requirement to nourish twice in the fall of 2026 and nourish in the spring of 2027 and thereafter resume the normal nourishment schedule. Or to direct Alex to issue an enforcement order.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Joanne?
Yes.
Cinnamon? Cinnamon?
Yes.
Okay, Janet?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Tim.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, so next we have an administrative review filed by Kurt and Kimberly Gottschall. Applicant proposes to remove 3 cedar trees at property located at 300 Goody Howett Drive, map 20, parcel 024. And is someone here on that? Okay, so again, Cinnamon, Alex, and Mike were out at the site this morning, and I'm going to ask Cinnamon if she can just review what the conditions were.
Sure, it's actually 4 trees. 2 are very obvious, completely dead cedars. He is willing to prune them into snags. So that was easy enough. Then there's 2. The third one is very close to what we're calling the 4th one now, to make it 4 trees. They're ailing, they're not going to recover, and they should just be removed. They're pretty far back from, they're in the area between the 2 homes. So, and it's heavily vegetated, so you're not going to miss them. I wouldn't recommend mitigation because they're in a bunch of other trees and brush. So, and like I said, he is willing to prune the other ones into snags.
Okay, so if I got that right, prune the 2 on the coastal bank into snags, and then the other 2 to be removed are between the houses. Okay, and that should probably be flush cut.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any questions, comments from anybody?
No, I
Okay.
agree with that. Just to add that the lot is full of a lot of other trees. It's a very beautiful lot. I'd also like to point out that he pointed out the osprey pole that we approved about 6 months ago. And there's a beautiful nest on top of it. And at one point he saw an osprey there sitting on top of the eggs, but he hasn't seen them lately. But it was just nice full circle that it was something we approved 6 months ago, and there's a beautiful pole out there with a beautiful nest on top of it. So nice to see. And then the other one that we've approved over near Boat Meadow, I actually passed by just as a quick aside, and there's no nest on top of that one yet, but it's only been there for a few months.
Well, it seems like our last site visit, somebody told us they've been watching that one too. So that's really nice to hear. Okay. Janet,
I wondered if Alex had any comments about the trees.
No, I thought Mike and Cinnamon covered this one nicely. All 4 are dead or in the process of dying. The 2 on the coastal bank being kept as snags. I think that was I was glad to hear that the property owner was willing to do that. And then, as I think either Mike or Cinnamon mentioned, that the other 2 trees are in a very heavily vegetated area of the lot. So, I don't think mitigation is needed, for these removals. Or we could consider leaving the 2S snags as mitigation, which I think also makes sense.
I think he wouldn't be opposed to that. I'm surprised he's not here. He said he was going to be, but
No, actually, I am here.
oh,
Sentiment.
There you
Yeah,
go.
sorry.
hi.
I having a hard time with the mic here, but yeah, thanks for coming out today. Take a look at those, but I think you summarized it very well, what we're looking to do.
Could you please just identify yourself for the record?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. This is Kurt Gutschel, property owner at 330 Goody Hallett.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like we're ready for a motion to approve the administrative review to remove the 2 dead cedars on the top of the coast. Let's see, to cut the 2 dead cedars at the top of the coastal bank into snags and remove the dying trees between the 2 houses with a flush cut, leaving the roots in place.
Mhm.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Cinnamon,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And we are done. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And next we have administrative review filed by Warren Allen and Elaine Messina. Applicant proposes to trim back or remove 5 large oak trees at property located at 95 Edgewood Road, map 08, parcel 311. And I believe they are at the at Town Hall. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would they like to speak on the project before we go over it?
Hi, this is Chris Warren. Yes, I just wanted to say that I've looked at these 5 trees that are in the buffer zone in any way that I'd be able to keep them, whether they're limbed and they still come back to life, or whether they're just cut back far enough that they're a stump that we know is going to die. But even that, I think they're going to fall and hit the house at some point in time. A couple of them are already directly above the deck and above the house. And when you are out there and you look up, there's hardly any patch of sky. There's really no open area above the house. From a satellite view, you can't see the roof. So there's a ring of about 11 houses altogether, but the 5 in the zone, I've tried from every direction to see which ones we could try to keep and preserve. And those 5, I think all of them pretty much need to come down. So I'd like to be able to take them down if I have to, but try to just limb them or at least leave the stumps if we think that is possible.
So I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to, before I ask Cinnamon to talk about the site visit, have you had a tree person out to look at them and to assess them for limbing?
Yeah, I had 3 different companies come out. So I'm scheduled tentatively with one of them for next week. And they said the same thing. We can limb them, but it might be better to take them all the way down, because if you only limb them, these are still going to be a threat within the next 10 years.
Okay. I'm just curious if you have a little more information about how they would prune them. You didn't really speak to that in the application.
I told them that I would want to cut them back as far as they can be cut where they would still live, however far that is. I mean, if we're cutting them back and we're trying to keep them alive, then whatever that is, whether it's a third of the tree, I don't know. These guys are huge and they block out the sunlight of a lot of little tiny trees that are trying to grow. And if they can cut them back pretty hard and they survive, then that's what we would do. But if we did that in the back with these 5 trees, cutting them back pretty hard, they're still leaning toward the house. So that even if they just died and fell straight down, they'd hit us.
Okay. I'm going to ask Cinnamon if she would just go over what she saw out there this morning.
Sure. It again, very heavy vegetated lot. They're definitely, you have the hole at the house. They're all reaching for that light in the middle. I'm looking at one of the pictures provided. What he's calling number 1 is very close to the house. I don't, it's not overly healthy. I would say yes, you can take that one out. Number 2, 3, and 4, I would recommend pruning or limbing. And then number 5 is completely dead. And Alex and I talked about this briefly, that this is an opportunity for a great snag. There's already a nesting cavity in it. There's lots of branches coming off the side that could be pruned back and then keep it, like I said, as a snag. But 2, 3, and 4, I would recommend trying to prune them before total removal.
And you said 1 should come down?
I would say 1 can come down. That I don't feel there's so many trees that it's not taking away, and it is so close to the house.
I'm a little bit unclear on the rest of those numbers, because number 5 is the pine tree, and number 4 is the one that's dead. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the pine tree is number 5, if you're going from right to left.
So the picture I'm looking at, it's 1, 4, 5, 2, 3. So I think we might be looking at different pictures. Let's see.
Alex just gave me the one that you have. Yeah, number 1 is the pine tree, so perfect. And in this one, number 5 is the dead tree.
Right.
That one that's number 2 is the one that's on top of the deck. That's the most dangerous of them all, is number 2. You're standing on the deck there and you can see how thick that wood is right above it. But all these are to the southwest. So I guess if a nor'easter is here, I'm good with that. But this one here, number 2, number 3, and number 4, all of those guys really there's a lot of weight from them straight over the house. Like thick parts of the tree.
Well, looking at the photo, number 3 seems to be leaning away from the house. Number 2 in the photo, you have a photo with part of the, I guess, looks like a clothesline, and then the deck, and then you have 4, 5, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Trees. So number 3 looks to be leaning away from the house.
It's leaning towards the person who took the picture. From where you're standing there, it's leaning almost directly towards you.
Okay, it looks different in the other photo. 2 seems to be. Did you number this tree is the same way in each picture? So number 2 and 1.
No, I ended up.
Okay.
I think we shifted it when I realized which one was in the jurisdiction and which one wasn't. So I had to reassign a number on a different picture. It was a long process.
I can't look at that at all. So Cinnamon, Mike, and Alex, I'll go with whatever recommendations you were making, because I unfortunately couldn't get out to the site this morning, and the photos are not helpful.
Could I offer something? With number 5, that big dead rotten stump, I'm not against keeping that there, because that does provide a lot of habitat. So if you are not happy with total removal of any of these. I'd be comfortable doing something that produces another big stump like that, as long as it's not going to fall on the house. The number one thing I'm trying to do is make sure that whatever we leave behind after this project is it's not going to fall on the house. And if we don't meet that criteria, then I just failed tonight. So dead stumps I can live with. Anything that can still hit the house is my request here.
Joanne, do you want to go and then Mike, or?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll go. So number one, I was looking at the satellite imagery, and it's absolutely correct that you can't even see the house through all of the trees. So I wouldn't want to split hairs here. I know if I name the number of the tree now, number 2, nobody knows what that means anymore. But so in the closer picture, it does look like it kind of leans towards and goes up over the house. I have no problem with that one going, especially given you can't even see the house on the satellite imagery. Agree on what Mike was calling the removal of 1 and the, perhaps making a snag out of 5. And then 4 and 3, I'm kind of agnostic on, but I would not have a problem with taking them if we had some sort of, I don't know, maybe like shrubbery mitigation. The owner did mention that there are other trees trying to come up. And I'm looking at the photos, and it does look like there are potentially a lot of baby trees trying to come up. So I'm not so set on keeping all of these. Just my opinion, especially if we can keep the snag. I will support limbing if that's the consensus with the commission, but personally, I don't have a problem with taking these trees if we need to.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that this house has so many large trees around it. It's astounding. Frankly, I've never seen this many mature trees in Eastham, and it's partly because the house is very old. It's from the 1800s. The other issue is the reason we're ruling is because there is a very small pond and area. You can't see it. You can't get to it. There's a whole area down there that's also lush and full of trees. So removing a few of these trees, frankly, wouldn't make much of a difference in this area. There's so many surrounding trees. Joanne just talked about the satellite imagery. When you're there, even if the sun's out, it's all shaded. So I think this is not a couple of trees in a very wide open lot. This is a very mature forest around this house.
Okay, so what are your overall thoughts of what to do here?
I think that it's a reasonable expectation to try to protect the house by at least limbing these, but frankly, it wouldn't bother me if they were taken down.
That's a very definitive answer.
What if we said removal of 1?
Yeah.
Number 2 becomes a snag.
Which number 2? Which photo are we working the numbers from?
And that's the worst one to leave anything up. That's the one that's going to come down on the deck. Number 2. If there's anything, if you only let me take 1 down, I would choose number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking at the aerial? I want to make sure we're all looking at the same picture.
I'm looking at the photograph that Alex handed me. It starts with number 1 on the left, which is a pine tree. That pine tree was cut once about 30 feet up, and now it's 3 different pine trees. You can see the top half of it. So it's,
right. So 1, I would say, I'm on the same picture you are now. 1,
yep.
I think we could remove 4 and 2.
2 is the one where I'm begging to remove, because that's the one that even if all we did was leave a stump, it's still coming at the house.
Okay, this is the picture that shows the house. And then has 1 over the upper deck and then shows 4, 5, 3, and 2. Just so that we're all making sure we're all looking at the same thing. Is that correct?
Yes, the aerial image.
Okay, so that's not what I'm looking at. The aerial image that has the house numbers 125 and 95 in red?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, because I think the other picture is a better view.
If we go down to the one that is,
The one that shows the house and then has number 1 over the deck and then 4, 5, 3, and 2 with the umbrella in it.
got it. Okay. Yep.
I think that's much clearer to work from, that we can
Yeah.
attach to the permit or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you, Karen. That's the one I'm looking at too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just go through this because it's been a little confusing. So no, let's start with number 1. Is that the pine tree?
Which one?
No, let's go through them. Number 1,
removal.
sorry, I missed that.
One I would recommend to remove.
Okay, so remove number 1. Number 4, we're going left to right here.
Going with Joanne's sentiment as well. I think 4 you could remove.
Okay. Number 5, that was the
Snag.
snag. Okay.
3 remove.
So I'm sorry, what was number 5, the dead one? You want to keep that up?
The dead one as a snag.
It can
Turned
be
into a-
cleaned up and left. I think the center one, the center piece can be kept.
Yeah, we're just fighting ivy out there, that's all. We'll keep it on.
3 remove.
And then 2.
Snag.
I'd argue to remove that one.
Yeah, am I right that 2 was the one he's most worried about in this
Yeah.
rubric?
In
So
this
I think-
number 2 in this
In this-
picture, or number 2 in a because this,
Number 2 in this picture looks to me like the one I'd be worried about, so maybe we can clarify
Yeah.
that.
well, number 2 in this picture to me looks like it's leaning away from the house. Number 3 looks like
3
it's
in this
leaning.
picture is the one he's most concerned about.
Yeah.
It's a big tree and it's right next to the house.
Number 3. Yeah. Number 2 looks like it's leaning away from the house. You guys were out there. Tell me.
I wouldn't say it's not. Oh, it's not over the house as much as the other ones for sure. It's definitely. And if you snagged it, it would also open up some sunlight below, and some other smaller things might take over. It's in an ivy patch.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So number 1 remove, number 4 remove, number 5 a snag, number 3 remove, and number 2 a snag.
Mhm.
Can I ask you again to please let me remove number 2? I'm expressing
Well,
to you that that's the one that I'm the most concerned about. I mean,
Okay. Are
please.
you looking at the same picture we're looking
I
at?
don't think that any of the pictures have number 2 as a different tree than them. I think it's the same one in all the pictures. It's the one that's leaning over the deck.
That looks like number 3 in this picture. Alex, can you show him the picture?
But 2, 3, and 4, those trees right there, 2, 3,
Okay.
and 4. If you can let me, I would like to take down 2 more than any of the others. That's the biggest risk. If you had stood there, you would nod
Right.
and know what I'm saying.
And I'm going to interrupt you because we're trying to determine, we're working from this particular photo, and you numbered the trees differently in each photo. So we're working from this photo. And are you telling me that number 2 in this photo is the one you want to remove, or number 3?
I'm going to need to see what you're looking at.
Right. And just next time you file, please number everything the same, picture to picture.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not good at this. Okay, so the first picture I have on the whole left side of it, it's got the deck and the top of an umbrella.
Yes.
All right, in that photograph, it's number 2. I'm standing on the deck there, and that tree is coming straight at me. You see the whole trunk is in the shadow, and it's early. The sun's on the other side of the tree. You're looking towards the east there. So that tree is leaning right over that deck. Number 2 in that picture. And in the other picture that Alex just gave me, I see the pathway that goes up the wooden stairs and then up to the house.
Yeah.
Okay. In that one, it's number 3. I got the
Right.
numbers in the wrong place. So in that one, you can see number 3 better there, how it's leaning.
Mhm.
Not
Right.
all
And
the
that's
way because of the
right.
angle, but
And that's the picture we were working from. So let me
okay.
run through it again. So number 1 would be removed. Number 4 would be removed. Number 5 would be a snag. Number 3 would be removed, and number 2 would be a snag.
Got it. So 5, the dead one stays, and in this one, 2, which back on the original one here would be 3,
Mhm.
the one to the right. Yep, that's the one
The
for
one all the way to the right is
Yep.
a snag.
Yep. Can I cut that at a level that's no higher than the distance away? So if it's 30 feet from the house, I can cut it 30 feet tall. I
Yeah.
just I don't want something that's going to come down on the
Usually
house.
we do snags like 12 to 16 feet.
Perfect. It's at least that far. 12 to 16 feet. Perfect.
Uh-huh.
We're from Florida. We don't let anything that can land on the house grow. So
Okay. So I think we're
we
clear
know
there.
better.
And were we talking about some shrubbery as mitigation, or were we just going to say this is a very well wooded lot?
I think it's well wooded. I think I'm okay with it as is.
Yeah, Alex?
Yeah, I would agree with Joanne. There does appear to be an understory that could replace the trees coming out, and so the added sunlight should encourage those understory saplings to grow.
Okay. All right. So if we could have, so we're good now. Any more questions, thoughts, comments? Okay. So if we could have a motion to approve the removal of, to approve the administrative review to remove to remove from the photo that shows the house and the umbrella where it's numbered 1, 4, 5, 3, and 2. That remove number 1, remove number 4, leave number 5 as a snag, remove number 3, leave number 2 as a snag, with the snags to be 12 to 16 feet high. And with 24 hours notice to the conservation department before work? Alex?
Yeah, 24 hours. That's standard with our special conditions for tree pruning and removal.
And special conditions for tree pruning and removal. And if somebody
So
would like to make that,
we're scheduled for Monday and Tuesday. When do I need to give you notice?
I would say if it's for sure happening Monday, I would be comfortable with that happening Friday. And
So Friday, I communicate that to you.
Give me a call. Yep, and so we'll
got
issue your permit later
right.
this week. Yep.
okay, so if somebody could make such a motion,
So moved.
and is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And Alex, if you could just include that photo attached to the permit when you issue it, just so everybody working is clear on which trees are which.
Yes, I can.
Okay. All righty. Okay, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, okay, next we have an administrative review filed by David Daigle. Applicant proposes to remove 3 pitch pine trees and 1 dead pitch pine tree at property located at 3 Linwood Trace, map 14, parcel 083B. And this one, the applicants were asked to withdraw this and resubmit it as a plan change. as they are working on a bigger project to build a house and a large landscaping project, and they have agreed to do that. So if we could have a motion to accept the withdrawal of this application.
Move to accept the withdrawal of the application.
And is
Seconded.
there a second? Okay, Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. And then we have a continuation of administrative review filed by Daniel Jenkins. Applicant proposes to remove down trees and 5 large pine trees, a property located at 165 Gingerplum Lane, map 17, parcel 735. And if you remember this, the applicant came before us first on April 28th, and we had a discussion about the trees, and we asked them to bring back additional information and we continued it to May. They then asked to continue it to this meeting. No additional information has been provided. And when staff reached out to the applicant, he said he's not going to provide any. So at this time, I'm going to suggest that we deny the application. And as we don't have sufficient information to make a determination, and they can reapply at a later date if they wish.
Move to deny the application.
Second.
Is there? Okay. Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. Next, we have a notice of intent filed by 15 Bayberry Lane, LLC. Applicant proposes to reconstruct the stone revetment, relocate the beach stairway, and restore plantings at property located at 15 Bayberry Lane, map 13, parcel 150A. And I know that's Bob Perry. Hi. You're muted.
I'm just unmuting. Thank you. Good evening. My name's Bob Perry, company's Cape Cod Engineering. Karen Johnson is on the call tonight. She is the 15 Bayberry LLC. Laura Kelly has been working with Karen for many years and collaborated with me on this notice of intent that involves effectively 3 things, and I'll summarize those for you. The property has a stone revetment that has been there probably for a couple of decades. It has a nourishment program ongoing. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it's been overtopped and it's kind of settled down. It's a rubble structure. And the proposal here is to reconstruct it to be more consistent with the flood elevations, although it will not exceed the 100-year flood elevation. My philosophy is typically to try to keep it just a little bit lower, give the coastal bank the opportunity to be vegetated and to function as a habitat. And very, very severe storms, I suppose it could even be a sediment source. But the mitigation with the sand activity has been very, very successful in Eastham. And the notice of intent outlines the performance standards with regard to the coastal bank and the coastal beach. I won't go very deep on that. There's a lot of revetments in Eastham. This would be constructed by accessing via a first encounter, which I think is a fairly common access for some of the sand nourishment. The materials that are there would be set aside and reused to the degree they can be, and other materials would be brought in and properly staged. We've had a lot of discussions over the years about chips and stray materials when a project is finished. I'm very much a stickler for leaving the beach pure and clean, and I would insist upon even if it was necessary, a repetitive screening and very careful confinement of the materials while they're being used. We really require that they be in a bin, and I'm not expecting that would be any trouble at all. So while this coastal bank is being temporarily affected by the work on the revetment. The applicant has a beach access stairway. Presently, it's on the north. That was first permitted, I believe, in 2011, and it was mandated to be constructed of untreated lumber. Well, it's decayed quite severely, and in the course of redoing the revetment, it's a perfect time to redo the stairs. They're way up on the north, and if you've looked at the plan, you know the applicant has about 175 or so feet of frontage, and the preference is to use this as an opportunity to set the stairway more centrally located in that parcel and move it over to the south side of the deck. It just the whole project combination lends itself to the appropriate time to do that. And the replacement stairway is quite similar to the one that's currently there. It would have an aluminum lower segment that could be seasonal and a small deck seating area at the very top of the revetment. That's also common. It becomes a staging area where you can get a good grip and pull the aluminum up for winter storage. The coastal bank, where it would be disturbed, which would be in its lower areas, would be fully vegetated with American beach grass. The area would be left far more stable. The performance standards for a vertical storm buffer coastal bank are fulfilled. And with the sand mitigation, the sediment source coastal bank is also, with respect to performance standards, is fulfilled. Coastal beach activity is temporary. And as you know, the sand management has been very successful. In 2010, a 220 cubic yard volume was estimated. And I think we've come a long way since then. And our review of the shoreline change maps going with the long-term rate, I mean, from 78 to, I think, 2010, it's 0.3 feet per year erosion, which is not really believable, but it's based upon the coastal erosion structures that are there, kind of prevented the coastal bank from retreating, or the nourishment activities, because the coastal zone maps track the change of the mean high tide line, not the coastal bank. And so the long-term rate, even though it causes for landowners to put more material in, is I think commonly accepted as the normal and more appropriate rate to use. I know Greg Berman supports that. Brian McCormick supports that. And our calculations come up with about 160 cubic yards per year. And we just want to put that on the record because I believe it's a more appropriate amount of sediment to be putting in there. And I will just touch on one thing about that. That beach will never drop in all practical likelihood with regard to the life of a structure like this. The beach will not drop below zero. Our toe stones go to -3 so that they are properly installed, but we're not calculating the beach nourishment from the bottom of the toe stone to the top of the coastal bank because it's an unrealistic geometry to use for calculation. So we're going from 0 to 30 to get to that 160. We can talk about that later, but I don't want to go on. You've already had a pretty long night. Laura Kelly has a plan that she worked with me on for really fixing some old vegetation at the top. And I know I'm hopeful she's on the call, and I'd like to turn this over to her at this point, unless you have questions about the revetment or the stairs that you'd like to get settled before Laura takes it on. Yeah, how do you feel?
I think we'd like to do that, maybe address the revetment, because these are in some ways almost separate projects.
Yes, I understand.
So
I'd open it up for your questions if I might. Thank you.
We're going to start with well, Mike has his hand raised. I was going to ask Cinnamon to review, but Mike, go ahead.
I just wanted to make it clear to the commissioners, we've got two projects that are right next to each other. Mr. Perry has plans for both. This project at 15 is an existing revetment. Right next to it at 11 is a wooden bulkhead, and that project is also coming up this evening. And I assume, Mr. Perry, you're going to talk about that as well, but that's removing a wooden bulkhead and also putting a revetment there. So what you're talking about now isn't just replacing the revetment at 15, but continuing that to 11 and doing that entire project. Is that correct?
Well, the best outcome for construction protocol would be that both jobs are done concurrently. I didn't move into asking you if you wanted to review these projects together because, well, I just didn't know if you wanted to do that. But the fact is, we've alluded to the likelihood that these jobs would be done, the actual work would be done together. Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is that we looked at the revetment today and we looked at the Wharton bulkhead. There's scour in between the two that we noted. But we had a hard time evaluating the revetment. It's completely nourished and we couldn't really evaluate the stones. So what I'm hearing from you, though, is the reason that you'd like to replace that revetment is that it's too low. That's basically what I'm hearing.
That's the biggest part of it. It's also very small stone. And I've been looking at it since Karen Johnson took over the property, and it's settled a little bit, and there has been quite a bit of overtopping action. So it's low. Yeah.
Okay. Those are my only observations, and I'll open this up to the group. And Cinnamon, if you have anything else to add, please add.
You summed it up perfectly. It was hard to see. It was very well nourished. And I think the question that was brought up in the staff report as well is what caused, the need to redo the whole revetment. And I think you answered that, but it was, if you looked at it, it looked fine. So as it is right now, but that's just putting your eyes on it.
Yeah, it has an elevation of 11. The lowest revetment I've presented to you in that shoreline was at 15 in a location where the flood elevation was 17. The flood elevation here, and it's probably related to the offshore bottom depths, is 19. So we were proposing to go to 18. And it is when I think of the opportunity to minimize successive large construction trips onto the beach, there is the bulkhead to the south that it's not a good thing to have something like that on the beach. The proposal there will link to this. So both property owners have, I know, coordinated somewhat, and it's a great opportunity to take care of this segment.
Janet, your hand was up. Did you have a question?
It's a little comment, but I don't know whether it's significant. On page 18, where you say segments of the stone revetment will be developed as follows, take the 6 dot down. It says each 30-foot revetment segment activity repeats the previous one until the east end is reached. Don't you mean the south end?
Well, I probably do mean south. I know you can get turned around on Cape Cod, but that's definitely a typo or a directional.
I saw that too.
Because I wasn't sure if you were curving in somehow that I didn't see, or if you really mean south.
Well, no, the sentence is related to trying to just let you know that every segment of a revetment like this is built like every other one. But I think
okay,
I just picked the wrong compass direction there in my writing and didn't pick it up. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Greg, was that your?
Yeah, I
driving out sign. You can get turned around pretty quickly there.
Yeah, I had a quick question. So you're telling us that if you do not fix the revetment, that bank will continue to erode, right? Is that?
Well, it's always had that overtopping edge, and at least since I've started looking at it since around 2011, 2012, and it's just kind of a rough collection of rocks. And I do agree. Of course, I took some pictures when I prepared the notice, and of course, my luck would be that I show up there and they're putting sand all over it. But it's really just a matter of wanting to be prepared for that flood that we haven't had, that's on the map, that FEMA says could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's precautionary, and that's why.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, and then me.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Just out of my own curiosity, why not match the elevation of the revetment with the elevation of the flood elevation, or not higher? What's your rationale between going?
I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that. I've been doing this for a long time, and I work with many different conservation commissions and many ecological theories and philosophies. And when you get up into the range of the upper level of the 100-year flood, vegetation can very adequately take over on the erosion front because the energy is less. When we have the ecological significance of a coastal bank, it's a habitat, as much as it's a sediment source, as much as it's a vertical storm buffer. So if we can keep our revetment lower, and not irresponsibly lower, but lower, then you have more vegetated coastal bank. And I'm the kind of engineer that just likes to work with the conservation interests, so I'm not just armoring everything all the way up to some theoretical flood level. It's my reason.
Thank you.
So I have seen you do this before on pretty much every revetment you've brought us in the past. And I do appreciate that you are not trying to armor everything. My question is more towards I'm glad you sent us pictures because the revetment is under sand. And when I first got this application, I said, well, we just went through nourishment season. So how are we going to get a chance to look at the revetment and see what condition it is and then discuss it? But it seems to me like your photos showed us quite a bit, showed us a very well-nourished, a very stable bank just above the rocks. And it's less of a concern about the current condition of the revetment than, which does seem a little raggy, I think. Like it's been there a while, maybe a little too long and needs a refresh. So it's less about that than what you want to do to build a new one. And I don't seem to have any issues with what you're proposing. You do tend to anticipate the questions we're going to ask, so I appreciate that. But otherwise, it would be very hard to evaluate this project at this time of year, and yet we seem to get a lot of revetment projects right after they've been nourished. So I'm not quite sure what the thought is on that, or just trying to get it done in a certain time of year.
Yeah, it's really job scheduling. I got to this as quickly as we could. And any given day, if you get the wrong weather, that sand might get washed into the system, and then you get to see it. It's really just a rubble revetment that has issues that are common. It's been there for 20-something years, I think.
So we're in the rare situation where I'm not going to be complaining about a revetment. I don't know if you've seen that before, but anyway. So
I just want to say it's how the job gets executed, and I know that the applicant in this case and in the other one is going to have I think, an acceptable team with whatever surety you need to have in place so that the job just comes off and nobody knows we've been there. It's most important to me that it gets done right, it gets done quickly, and during the cold months. So that I see it as the work effort more than anything.
Okay. And then just a question about the stair. So we are looking at a aluminum stairs at the end that is retractable, or
It would be. I took this up with the owner, and we just see wooden stairs get battered around so often. And while it just allows for that option so that you can slide them up, they're often narrower than the normal run of stairs. And with the right assistance, you pull them up, lash them up, and then you're safe for the winter. You could leave them down, but there's a little bit of risk involved in that.
okay. So we usually give those a time of year restriction that they're up by November 15th and not back down again before April 15th.
Well, if that's common in your practice, then I don't see why that would be objectionable. There are alternate ways to get to the beach. And if somebody did want their stair in year round, I think you'd be willing to speak with them about it, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think some of it is just not wanting to have the stairs accidentally left down when the storms come through, because we know that's going to wind up being beach debris somewhere.
They don't go very far, but they do disappear. I don't quite know why.
I know where they wind up. They wind up at Commissioner Chuck Wagner's house because he talks about that often. So if anybody is looking for their beach stairs, that's where they're going to be. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions from the commission on the revetment and the staircase? Okay. And then I guess we're going to ask Laura. Hi, Laura, if she would go through the rest of the project.
Yes. Hi. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Just checking in about that. So, at this property at Karen's house, there is existing vegetation that grows to 6 feet, and we have been pruning it, doing the Vista View prune. This is if you were sitting on Karen's back deck, looking straight into Cape Cod Bay, like sunset, right? West, facing west. There are natural vegetation that exists that are large mature bushes that were originally there, through time, that we keep just cutting down to this 6-foot height. And so it turns out that now it's woody with just a couple of inches of green. So when she's actually sitting on her back deck, she's looking at wood, from beach plums and, assorted bushes that are native. There are also 3 cedar trees that exist that are very spindly, just because they've been beaten up from, weather and the topography of the land. They're not these gorgeous cedar trees. It's literally like all wood with a little green on the top. So I'm talking with Karen about creating sustainable landscapes, as I have at this property, 5 or 6 years ago. I came to conservation requesting that we worked on what I call the front yard within the 100-foot buffer zone, gave a design, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing that project to move forward, because it is completely successful. The bushes are growing happily, and we also are allowed to use pea stone for the mulch, and that hasn't moved, and it's totally works. We kind of want to create that same feeling in the backyard, where right now it's not sustainable. We're cutting this Vista prune anywhere from 6 or 7 times a year, just cutting it down, the view, and the wood keeps growing up, so there's nothing left. And so it's getting really, unhealthy. And of course, it doesn't look good and such. So the proposal is to remove such bushes and to plant native plants, native vegetation that only grows to a certain height that we don't have to continue to cut down all the time, a couple of times a year. So you can see in the design, that's a combination of bearberries on the actual coastal bank itself, because they root really nicely. And that's where, there's a flat zone and then it curves down, right? So on the down curve, there's seagrass that's already, the American seagrass is great. It's there. That's not going to get disturbed at all. And then right on that curve, we want to put the bearberries that'll actually root there nicely. And then from the deck to, on that flat zone, just a combination of the Virginia roses and the Carolina roses. So they want to fill in and complete that area and not grow to where we have to cut and vista prune numerous times a year. This could be done, separately than when the stonework gets done. We have a way in from the street to let you know. Karen also owns the property next door, and we have put a flag on the street of where we can enter with not taking down any trees except one overgrown bush until we get to the area itself. So we've found a way to not have to, take down 17 trees in order to get out back. So that's a blessing. We figured that out. We are asking to take in to remove the existing root system because they're so mature and big and we've pruned them for so long. Probably a mini excavator, just a mini, the little one that digs this way. And then that would leave. And then we would bring in a dingo that has a larger cup this way to put the roots in to then remove out. So we've also decided we're going to drag the ones that we can human-wise take out, we're going to do ourselves with shovels. But when we need help with a tractor, so we're not going to go through 75 times back and forth and back and forth. We want to just do it what times we need to go back and forth. So we're really trying to figure out the easiest, most efficient way to make this happen and occur. At the end, if allowed by conservation, the steps going down will be on the other side. So that also will get some new native vegetation, and we will curtail the new roses and bearberries up to the new stairwell on the other side of the deck. So that's the big picture of it all. And I would definitely, so the day that we get to remove, if we're so lucky and fortunate, I would definitely put wattles up along that embankment where it starts going down to hold. I'm hoping the way I want to do it is literally have the plants on site and be prepared to plant the same day we remove. But I think the wattles are going to be needed just in case we get a rain like today. Of course, I'll watch the weather and do my best to be like 1 or 2 or whatever we can weeks out of watching weather before starting this. Because erosion will be a factor if something happens with all the new, the new babies. They need to, take hold. I would use a combination of compost with sand because they're going to be going into sand, but I want to give them some nutrition one time. I do not use any pesticides or fertilizers of any kind. They need to live there themselves. I would do the watering. I want to do hand water because the roses don't want much, but the bearberries are going to want more. So how do you put that on any sort of drip irrigation? They want different things. So I'm hoping to be able to stick with them every other day as needed until they can establish every 3 days and wean myself off. They should be able to, take care of themselves after a while. So that's what I propose for for the project itself. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
I have quite a few questions, but let me start off with something you said about the pruning. You said you do that how many times a year? 6 or 7?
Well, it just depends, right? Some years it rains, some years it doesn't. So upon request from my homeowner, Karen, who says, it's just getting really, or some of them are straggly, like it's definitely not even. Let me tell you, it's not. And so it just gets messy and they can't see, their own bay view.
Right, but typically we permit vista pruning as once a year. So under what authority are you cutting it 6 or 7 or more times a year?
That's my fault. We do it in the fall, and so it lasts the winter. And then, just upon request, we'll cut a couple. It's not a huge, it's definitely not a huge, they don't grow that much, but there are stragglers, and we do. So I apologize if I've overstepped any bounds on that. It's not a full-on vista.
Right. I was going to suggest that you need to review whatever permits are in place for that. And then let's talk about, I'm a little unclear on what you're proposing here. What are you proposing to remove? Be very specific.
The bushes that are existing there. Michael, did you happen to take pictures of them today by chance so we could see?
I did. I shared them with the commission earlier today.
Okay. So you were planning to take out everything there on the top of the coastal bank? Roots and all? In what is very much looking like an incredibly stable coastal bank at this point. That would destabilize the bank.
Madam Chair, Bob Perry here.
Yes.
At Laura's, Laura provided information to us, and we produced a planting vegetative alteration plan that was part of the application, and the zone is only seaward of the deck. My understanding is that the land doesn't really slope down very much. There's a little bit of a berm on the top of that bluff, and the very, very, very top of the coastal bank is going to normalize quite well on its own. The bearberry, as I understand it, is from the crest of the bank landward, and properly managed, as Laura described, with her watering, which would not put any independent irrigation there. I didn't see any way that could destabilize the coastal bank itself, but it's that zone just seaward of the deck where it's my understanding that except for maybe one cedar tree, there's 2 scraggly, there's one cedar that's not in bad shape. It's kind of curious looking, but the roots in that zone would be removed and that area would be replanted. And I don't want to steal Laura's thunder, but I'm just explaining how I understood it to be done.
Right, and you gave us a plan, and the work is not exactly well detailed on the plan in terms of what's getting removed and
right, it's wholesale in that zone. It's wholesale in that zone. It's very much a monoculture of shrubs.
Right, and right now it looks like it's a very well-established root system that is providing a lot of stability at that area.
But it's not on a slope. And I think Laura's premise is that you can prune these woody things until they're just wood stalks. And yeah, there's roots in there, but it's not on the slope. There's no work that Laura's proposing that's on a steep slope.
So I'm sorry, I'm confused because I was there this morning and asked Laura specifically about how wide an area was going to be removed. And there is certainly a slope. You can see that after about 5 feet, it starts to slope down. By the time the cedars are taken into consideration, and she talked about cleaning everything out to the cedars, that slope has already gone down 8 or 10 feet from the back deck. So It's not real. I didn't see it on the plans, but when I was there today, it was a very significant slope that I did see, and I was concerned about that. So, and she
Okay.
had talked about removing the cedars and the roots, which are certainly on a slope. So
Right. The
what
elevation
you're
along,
describing is a little less than what I saw today.
just to touch on that, on the south end of the deck, the elevation is 33.5. On the north end of the deck, it's 30.2. When we go out to the coastal bank crest, we have an elevation of about 29. So that's a 1.2 foot drop on the north. And we have 32, 30, about a 2 foot drop between the deck and the top of the coastal bank on the south. So I've never seen it as a slope like that. Now, if Laura was pointing to an area on the coastal bank that's got some pitch to it, that's not shown on our landscape plan that we submitted. I could pull it up and share my screen if I could figure out how to do that, or so that you can see it. Just where the deck is the only location for alteration of vegetation in that zone. It's not what I would call a steep slope at all. I wasn't there this morning, so I wasn't able to see what you were
I
looking
think
at.
the not to interrupt, but I think it's deceiving because it is all bushes with a lot of stalks and vegetation on top. So it's just hard to tell. It's a real thicket. And so yeah, it's deceiving with the naked eye to know exactly what's going on until you're like in it in a way.
Well, we want to be careful with the ground. I know that. I don't want to,
Absolutely.
but the profile AA, which is the engineered plan for the coastal bank work, shows the accurate topography along the trace AA that goes effectively. It's a line drawn from the deck out. You can see that the ground is approximately, it drops maybe a foot over about 20 feet. It's about 5%. But if you go to profile AA, that's what's going on. And the vegetation management zone is not to be seaward of the top of the coastal bank. And
I'm looking at profile AA, but I can't tell. I guess you've got to. It doesn't explicitly state the distance from the deck to the top of the bank.
No, but it's a 1 inch equals 10 foot scale at the bottom.
I see.
So it's about 20 feet.
That wasn't marked today. The cedars that you're talking about removing are not marked on this plan either, and it was hard to understand.
No, they're not. It was my understanding that most everything in that zone would be removed with a full wholesale replacement of the vegetation that Laura described as being something that wouldn't gain significant height.
I understand that part. My worry is what you're removing, and if the coastal bank is being so distorted by this project. That's my concern.
I understand. Sure.
And it's hard currently to understand about how much is being removed from the top of a coastal bank, which could disturb it.
Well, it's a buffer zone. Again, I evaluated this when Laura sent me her sketches to prepare our plan. We had the revetment taking the role of the vertical storm buffer. And we look at the entire project together. We have the revetment fortifying. I don't believe Laura will be doing this until after the revetment work is done. That could also be a condition. And the vegetation work is in the buffer zone, but it is in the 0 to 50. It's in the buffer zone that's closest to the coastal bank. So any concerns for destabilizing the bank are real, and they should be addressed. I know Laura spoke about a work limit silt fence. That's one way to do it. That you don't disturb the vegetation within 5 feet of the crest, for example, to get it done so that it's safe I don't see a large contribution area of runoff, so I don't see a gully washer, for example. But to be careful in practice, I think it can be conditioned to be done properly and safely. And then when things grow in, you have a situation that's perfectly stable, in my opinion, because it is not a steep slope.
Cinnamon, your hand's up. I'll defer to you.
It
Are you
is.
re-
So you do have an area that's flat. Let's go back to like what the intention here is. She sits on her deck and she's looking at, albeit very ugly shrubs. She is. That's her view. They have been pollarded. But then you look at the bottom and that whole area is just roots. That's what's holding it all together. I don't feel great about removing those, but you know, I know what her intention is. So could it be something that's not all done at one time, that it's done over a period of years to kind of poke holes through the vista? Because I think once you start removing, I think you're going to have to remove more than you think you are to achieve a view, and going over the slope to do that. I don't think it's just in that flat area that you take those down. I think there's some things going beyond the slope that are preventing the intention of opening the view. So I'm very concerned about removing it, all of that in one fell swoop. Even though they're not healthy, those roots are down in there holding that. And I know it's flat, but it's also part of all of it.
Right. Wind needs to be considered. I think a phased operation, Laura may want to speak to this, as might the owner. A phased operation is certainly a creative and perfectly workable option to do.
You know, if you poke, I'm just proposing that you poke some holes in it, let the bayberry and the rose establish, and then, you know, maybe over 3 years, you eventually do achieve that view. But I don't see how you can remove it all and feel great about it. That's just a suggestion I'm coming up with, because it's
right. I understand it. Well, I think one way to consider this is a pull back from the top of the crest, have some kind of a limit, and undertake bands, or like go at it in 2 stages. And again, it's Laura's program, and I evaluate ground areas all the time for stability. I know that the factors here are not critical in the sense that we're not doing this on a steep slope. We can install good work limits. We can actually look at the lay of the land and see if there's anything that we need to worry about further. But I think it's Laura and the owner's program to work this through. So it could very well be a patchwork phased approach where they prune down some of these areas so the view is maintained, and attack the renovation of the planting, say in 2 or 3 stages. See how it works. If you were to do the area nearest the deck, for example, and then prune outward, you could see how your work landed and predicate what you do next on that. I don't know if anyone's excited about taking so much time to do it, but it is a long-term fix, and perhaps being done phase-wise as recommended is a safe way to go.
It's not so much maybe a recommendation, but just maybe a discussion to start. I would be very hesitant to remove all of that at once. And like I said, I think once you start doing it, you're going to find out that you are going over some of the slope to achieve what you want as the view.
I would prohibit that. I mean, I don't think that should happen right now. Going over that's sort of,
Right.
I agree with you that could happen, but that's not, based on this discussion, I can just tell that's not part of the program anymore.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, Cinnamon? Okay,
No.
so Alex, you're gonna go, then I'm gonna come back to me so I can finish asking the questions I started with, and then we'll go to Joanne.
I just had a thought, is, flush cutting some of the vegetation and keeping the roots in place an option?
I personally think it is. Laura may want to add to this if I believe she's still
Yeah,
on. Laura?
Sure, I'm here. Yeah, that's fine. It's just per, again, order of the town to only leave vista prunes between 5 and 6 feet in height. And we literally go out there with a tape measure every time we prune, so we're within the 5 and 6 foot mark. And these bushes are wood, and sometimes we're now to the point where we're cutting off the green, so they're just woody and there's no green.
Laura, he
So
mentioned flush cut. I believe he was talking about a flush cut for getting off the dime here.
yeah, I mean, that's a way if we could flush cut once a year. That's
But
great.
this flush cut, I think what's being described, it's possibly a flush cut approach to the patchwork. Do what's necessary to leave roots, control those roots, maybe they die back, and insert your renovated plant palette where you can. But I would, my own recommendation based on what's been said would be, if we have 20 feet between the deck and the top of the coastal bank, renovate everything from deck 10 feet toward the coastal bank and take those roots, because I do not see that as being jeopardizing anything. I mean, somebody built the house and they built the deck and the bank didn't fall down. But when you get closer to the top of the coastal bank, then I think we have to accommodate the commission's concerns for allowing roots to remain, even though they may die ultimately. That's where, if it's a little unsightly because you've flush cut some things or cut them down to 2 or 3 feet high, they're going to be screened by the nicer varieties that you've planted closer to the deck. And I think it needs to go that way if we want to move this.
Great.
And your thoughts?
Half in roses, half flesh cut or something. Absolutely. That's great.
I was going to ask, and I'm still going to ask, if you were going to dig them all up, how deep would you be digging?
Yeah, it's a good question. On an as needed basis, I don't know how deep the roots are. So
pulled out.
hopefully now we can leave them,
I think to answer the chairman's question, my estimation is that they would be chained and pulled out. They really wouldn't necessarily have to be fully excavated, and remnant roots would remain.
Okay, so I'm understanding that you didn't really bring us a complete plan to discuss here. So you're saying you would pull out the plants by the roots and not dig them up?
Well, it's a combination. I think depending upon each caliper size, a mini excavator that's rather small, 5 or 6 feet in diameter, would sit there and can wrap a chain around something and yank on it. I have not evaluated this. I'd be happy to do it. Laura's looked at it, and I think she described something to you that was very lightweight and scarifying the ground, pulling roots. The bucket just kind of pulls along and it gets a good piece of that root and it just pulls it. It doesn't have to excavate. That's the way I've always seen roots grubbed when you don't want to disturb the topsoil. You use the claw on the bucket to get a good little chunk of that, and then you just pull it. And most of it comes out, and then there's a follow-up. If you get a little bit of life remaining on the scrub, you can come in later and get it so that it doesn't interfere with what you've planted. And it, clearing in general isn't often detailed. This is a great discussion we're having about it because we're right near the top of a coastal bank. And it seems that it's the critical item that needs to be properly done.
Okay, and then let me ask, changing a little bit the direction. What about the possibility of regenerative pruning instead of removing?
Yeah, we can definitely, if we can go lower than 5 and 6 feet, I've definitely, told my crews to stay within this purview, and it's literally wood to, 2 inches to none vegetation. So yeah, if we could prune down to regenerate the growth and have them become something, that would be lovely. But at this point, it's just going to turn into sticks, and then they won't even be able to photosynthesize and grow. So it's just getting to that point where I'm glad we're having this discussion, because something's got to give one way or the other. They're not they're impaired so much that they need life again, or we need to, I want to create a sustainable landscape. That's the whole point. We did it out front and it was totally successful. It's been 5 years or more and it looks great and it's working great. And I wanted to create that same, theme and theory out back. So whatever we do, I'd like it so the homeowner has it for generations to come, and it's just set, and we're not continuing to keep maintain and manage this, so that's my outlook on things, is to set it up once and have it done right, and then you're just enjoying things and not continuing a payment plan all the time. So whatever the commission, desires, I'm happy to put the wattles out there, the straw bales, the silk fence, whatever's needed. I don't want to disturb the coastal embankment. I don't want to go over the edge. That's not the point. The point is there's a large flat area to work within that I think could be more sustainable. So that's just the desire.
I don't quite understand where wattles would go out there, given that you want to dig up all of the plants and then there's a slope. But so I think it's pretty clear that the commission is not in favor of digging the whole area up. That we all seem to think that it's important that the root systems remain to keep this stable. So it seems to me that it's up to you now to think about what we've said and come back with an alternate plan. But I know Joanne wanted to ask some questions, so I'm going to pass it over to her, and then we can.
Thanks, Karen. You actually struck on what I was going to ask about. I was going to say I like Cinnamon's phased approach. My concern when I looked at this is exactly what Laura just said, is if you are vista pruning to a point where a plant can't photosynthesize, it's going to die. And then, so if that were to continue, we need to have a plan in place. But I think we got past that. But yes, something, a phased in approach. I agree with keeping the roots if possible. My main concern was that if we keep it the way it is, eventually those shrubs will die. And then we'll have to have more of kind of an urgent emergency response to stabilizing that area.
But it also kind of begs the question, why do you keep pruning it when you know that that this is building up wood and the plants are getting unsustainable? Why not come back earlier and say this isn't sustainable, we need to prune it in a healthier way? Because that clearly wasn't done.
That ship may have sailed.
Right, but it's just part of the overall conversation here that it doesn't make sense to keep doing this. We've had other people come back to us and say, well, I think we need to prune this in a very different way to build back up vitality in the plants. So
I'm not able to say whether those shrubs can be recovered. I think what I'm sensing is that what you will benefit from, and I think the applicant will benefit from, us, Laura, maybe in concert with us, prepare a protocol for getting this done that's more detailed than what you have, that specifies a limit closer to the bank. We do not go, except there could be some pruning done there, and that we would bring you a phased approach that would probably, I'm just speculating, take care of a fair portion of the area that's nearest to the deck. And then as we go toward the coastal bank, there's no alteration to the ground. And we find a way that those particular shrub areas can either be pruned lower and then maybe in a piecemeal way replaced. But wholesale excavation or of grubbing, as we would call it, for root removal within, say, 10 feet of the top of the coastal bank would not be something that you would see on the next rendition. But I think you're owed some kind of a detailed protocol based on this discussion, that we come away with an idea of what you need. And Laura, who has more insight than I do in this, would spearhead that.
And we'll provide photos because it's obvious that a few of you haven't seen it. And if you see it, then you're going to see it. So we'll definitely provide the photos for that and share more details. No problem.
Okay. So let me just ask the commission if there's any other questions anybody has. Mike?
Yeah, there's another aspect of this project that hasn't been discussed yet. Laura pointed out how the equipment would be coming into the site. Just again for the commission, this is 15 Bayberry. We're getting ready to talk about 11. There is a lot that the owners of 15 own. I presume it's 13. And so the plan is to bring equipment through 13, which currently is has trees and has many low bushes. There was a marking at the street level of where things would go in, but there was no clear delineation of what would need to be moved or removed as far as bushes or trees to get into the side of the house which faces the bay. So as part of this revised evaluation, I'd like to know some details about that as well.
That's straightforward, I think. That should be part of that.
No problem. I mentioned it to you this morning. I showed you. I know it was blustery and windy and after a storm and such, but there was one bush, not bush, but a root, I'm sorry, a cambium to be removed in order to get through, and then a couple of branches on some bushes. So yes, we'll absolutely put that in the next revision. I pointed that out to you.
You did point that out to us today, but without being in the plan, the rest of the Conservation Commission cannot rule on this project.
Gotcha. You got it. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time and your details on this. We will.
Okay. We're not quite done yet.
Sorry. Through the chair.
I do need to ask if there are any abutters on the call who want to weigh in. So if there are any abutters who have any comments on this project, now would be the time. Okay. Seeing no one, now you can go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, based on the discussion and where we're at, we would request a continuation. And I would ask Laura if she has any preference for timing, a month or 2 weeks.
Our next meeting is July 14th.
All right. We should be able to, Laura, we can get together and work on that. Okay. We'd request to July 14 then, please.
And let me just ask, because I seem to remember when there was a previous filing here that there was some agreement not to disturb 13 Bayview. So I was going to ask about that in terms of access to work on this.
But that will be re-examined. It shouldn't be necessary to do too much on 13. The lot line is, about 15 feet from the deck. But I think Laura's going to scope that out and look for a harmless way to come in. And as everybody knows, if you break a little vegetation to get access, it'll be one growing season before you hardly know anyone was there if it's done right. And so we have to look at that more carefully. But seems that because the lot line's so close, a little bit of activity would occur on 13. It's probably lots, except for the Affordable Housing Act, it would have been lots merged by statute, perhaps, but it's, who knows? But it's, the hope is to leave that lot just like it is. I think that portions of the septic system may be on there.
Yeah, I believe there was discussion about that during a previous notice of intent, but I'd have to go look it up.
Well, it's going to get a little more in-depth examination. I can tell you that.
Okay.
If you take a vote, wait for that.
Okay, so we're looking to continue this to July 14th. If somebody would like to make a motion and a second, please.
Motion to continue this until July 14th.
Second.
Okay, Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time on it.
All right, and now we're going to move on to the notice of intent filed by David Silverman and Anna Davis. Applicant proposes to replace a marine bulkhead with a stone revetment at property located at 11 Bayberry Lane, map 13, parcel 148.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am Bob Perry, and the company's Cape Cod Engineering. And as we discussed earlier, these are projects to be best done concurrently. What we have is a timber bulkhead, and I have not found an order of conditions for it, but I think it may go back to the early 80s. I did find that there were renovations to it or some repairs that resulted in a sediment nourishment program. And I'm not remembering the date. I do have the file number, though. I think it was, I'm not even going to tell you uninteresting details like that. But it is about 52 cubic yards per year that was levied here, which I found to be pretty consistent with the long-term erosion rates and the geometry of the bank. So the area has been nourished for a number of years, and the prospect of a marine bulkhead, while it might have been a very simple solution back in the 80s, they're very poorly thought of in a high surf environment, because they do and can contribute to higher reflectivity and scour of the beach. And although this thing is still standing up, and I don't know anything about what's beneath the ground, it's probably 10-foot sheets that might be 5 or 6 feet below grade. The frontage is 73 feet. It has these wing returns on it. It gets to the property lines. So the best way, of course, is to integrate the geotextile with revetments. So we have a concurrent project on the north, and it is always necessary to pluck a couple stones out and integrate the fabric with adjoining revetments, and so that would be done on the south. This is the type of structure, I believe, it could be pulled out of the beach by the kind of excavator that would be setting stone and put into a loader and taken completely away so that no remnant of the structure remained on the beach. And from there, the approximate 73 feet of frontage would be a continuous revetment with the revetments on either side. Now, there's another feature that is of interest to the applicant, which is perfectly okay in a location like this. I tend to do them differently than some, but it's a set of stone steps where the existing steps come down the coastal bank, and that's not proposed to change. It's possible it could receive some new carpentry and some refurbishing, but there's been no request for us to change that. But when it gets to the top of the revetment, they'd like a set of stone slab steps that would then be fashioned into the revetment face. And that simply requires that the stone setter buy particularly shaped, sized stones and assemble them as I've indicated on the plan. There are different techniques for that, but I'm putting forth one recommended way to go. And then the armor stone needs to be carefully fitted so that there's continuity. And the theory of a revetment is that there's geotextile that's covering the sandy bank, and the bedding stone and the armor stone simply protect the fabric. And that's what's working to keep the erosion at bay. So as long as the stone is assembled properly around the stone steps, all should be well. And again, it's a much shorter job than what you last looked at, I think, by about 100 feet. And the geometry of the bank is similar. It's all sand, and there's not much to go into here except that where there is a little bit of disturbance above the revetment, because it's a normal activity that tends to leave a strip of unvegetated ground, it would be planted with American beach grass. And I don't think I'm leaving anything out on that. I just want to mention there's a little bit of a platform in the stairway today, and it won't require moving it too far. But again, since at high tide out here, sometimes you don't have a beach, you have a deck. And so there's a small, I think, 5x10 platform proposed at the top of the revetment, from which the stone steps would then follow. So that is the summary of this one. And I'd be happy to answer questions that you might have. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm going to start off with Mike, if he can just review the site conditions for us.
Certainly. The marine bulkhead is in between two stone revetments. We've already talked about the one at 15, and then as Mr. Perry's just mentioned, he will be taking that down and abutting the other revetment, which looked in good shape. So it's a win for that part of the Bayside beach because there's already some scour in between 11 and 15. As Mr. Perry said, these are usually 6 feet to 8 feet tall, and what we could see was only 2 feet. And there was lots of sand and beach grass right above that. And so there was no way for us to evaluate the rebar tiebacks that are usually part of these as well. So we couldn't tell where those were or what condition those areas were. I have one question, and that is about how you take this out. You mentioned the same way that you bring the rocks in, you would be able to pull this out. But my experience back in the 70s and 80s with a bulkhead just like this is that the rebar goes back to additional 4x4s or 6x6s that are buried pretty deep, that are about 6 feet to 8 feet back from the face of the marine wall. And so it's way in the sand. I don't see that it's not. Are you planning on leaving the back part and just taking out the front boards, or explain a little more about that part of the project?
I will. Thank you. It's a great question. It really is. It's probable that there are dead men, as we call them. I don't think this was too fancy when they did it. There are certainly anchor rods. We can see them. Back then, I can't speak to the design, but I don't believe that they're set way back, because they would have had to have been set into the bank at the time that it was built. If they're probably no farther in than 10 feet. And while it's preferable to get everything out of there, and this is a wonderful thing you've raised, that if it was one of these cases where, to be chasing the anchor rod and never getting to the dead man, remember, the bank's going to get recontoured a little bit. So there's going to be some reshaping. There's going to be some of the sediment that's on that slope area will wind up as beach nourishment. But if it is not practical to acquire the dead men, then the anchor rods would just be cut and the revetment would sequester those behind it. It's still a good question, and we do not know how long those dead men were back in those days, and I go back that far actually. They didn't use a lot of theoretical design where, you know, to hold up a 6-foot wall, you really need a 12 or 14-foot length to confine the earth envelope. But it's rarely the case. It's a very stylized situation. And in order to build that, unless it was built on the beach and then backfilled, which it doesn't look like, they would have had to jet those dead men down through the coastal bank itself. So they're probably fairly short. And that's a great question. I've just, there's some things we don't know until we get into it. But when you put a revetment like this on a coastal bank, you are repairing or fortifying any excavated damage that you might do to get some of those things out of there. My only requirement is that it be compacted when it gets put back. And there are compaction notes on the plan. I don't want a revetment built on loose sand. So I can't fully answer that question, but it's a great one. And we prefer to take everything out of there.
Thank you.
I do have a question also. The revetment is further seaward than the bulkhead. Is that correct?
It has to be. If you follow the total plan, you'll see that the toe stones are approximately where we understand other toe stones to be. When you take the slope of a revetment and you take it down to the beach level and you keep it at that slope down to the toe, you are farther seaward than you would see the revetment. And everything we're doing here is to minimize that. But if you push this landward, it's actually being constructed inside the coastal bank. You'd be underneath the bank. And those toe stones, you know, it's not a stylized triangle. There's a part you get to where the toe stone begins to round off. The very, very bottom of that toe stone's down around -3, which is where the fabric is. The top of the toe stone's probably about 1, 0, and it's probably 6 to 7 feet below the beach. So you won't see it.
Okay. So usually DEP doesn't like projects to go more seaward. So I don't know if they've made any comments on this because we don't generally hear too much from that. And then I was also wondering, is this beach dry at high tide?
It is. We're showing an elevation of 6 running along. I think a comment was made earlier that the bulkhead, you only see about 2 feet of it now. Mm-hmm. And the cap of that bulkhead, it's on the profile. It's about 8, and the beach is 5. Oh, I take it back. About 2.5 feet above, 2.7 feet above mean high water. So you will get seawater up against this wall during a very strong astronomical tide, but you won't have it on the average. So it's well clear of Chapter 91 jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And the objective is to have it as uniform as possible with the other structures that are out there.
Right, I understand. I just needed to ask the question. I generally think of the revetment is an upgrade from the wood bulkhead.
It is.
But the bulkhead seemed to have been doing its job because the bank itself looks in pretty good shape.
Yes, there's a little question about that. As you know, I believe that the storms for Cape Cod Bay that would clobber this reach of coast would be hurricanes with violent south winds, possibly the backlash from a northeaster. And yeah, it has done well. And it's just, if you did have a lower beach, you'd see a lot more revetment exposed, or a seawall, vertical wall exposed, and that would become that more reflective face that could hollow out the beach there during the wrong weather event.
Right, but is the revetment likely to also lower the beach further?
Well, the angled stone face, the revetment would tend to eat incident waves rather than send them right back with velocity. And I think the textbook case of sediment nourishment that Eastham has enforced, I know Alex has probably gotten into the Southeastern Cape Cod Bay, I think intermunicipal Southeast Cape Cod Bay sand management program. You're setting the pace for that. But the revetments in combination with nourishment seem to be about the best you can do. And it's really just theoretical that the vertical seawalls reflect more waves, but it just seems logical that they would. And it's not so much a problem today with only 2 feet of that visible. It doesn't engage with the tide regularly, but if it ever does, then the problem becomes more insidious because it's getting hit with every tide cycle.
Right, but the expectation is, looking at MC Firm, the Massachusetts flood coast risk model, that with sea level rise, that's going to get hit more often going in 2050.
Yeah, I think the conventional wisdom is that, I don't, we all talk about best available measures, and that has a environmental impact component to it. And getting this gap filled with a consistent feature is probably a good application of what would be termed best available measures. And so that's the essence of this proposal. That, and the fact that the wall is old, and I think it is holding up, but I don't know what its useful service life is.
And I think we'd be very unlikely to permit a replacement wood bulkhead in any case.
I wouldn't be proposing one for you to consider.
Right. So no, I'm generally in favor of this project. So, which means you've gotten me on 2 revetments in a row where I haven't been opposed to it, which is a record, I will say.
I promise I won't do it again.
Okay, you see to that. So let me see if anybody else on the commission has any questions, concerns. Okay, and are there any abutters in this meeting who wish to be heard? And I see no one. My understanding, Alex, is that we do have a DEP number for this.
For this one, we still need a DEP number.
Oh.
Yeah, we had a DEP number for 15. I believe we're still waiting for 11.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's what my notes say. Okay, so we can't actually permit this one tonight either. So I think we do need to continue it until July 14th as well.
Well, nobody will be working on it this summer, so there's time. I understand.
All right. Okay. So if somebody could make a motion to continue this to July 14th, and a second, please.
Move to continue to July
14th.
14th.
Second.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay.
Thank you all again for having me, and I appreciate the time you spent on it. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good night.
Okay, and next we have a notice of intent filed by Richard and Nancy Hayes. Applicant proposes to temporarily move the south portion of the building and shed and demolish the north portion of the building at property located at 153 Brownell Road, map 23, parcel 001. And they have asked to continue this to July 14th, 2026. So if we could have a motion for that.
Motion to continue to July 14th, 2026.
And is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. And then staff updates. Alex?
No updates from me this evening.
Okay. And then we have two sets of minutes. The May 26th, 2026 minutes, which were continued from a previous meeting, and the June 9th, 2026 minutes. And I'm going to ask if anybody has any comments, corrections, etc. And if everybody has had a chance to see the corrections that Amy emailed out earlier. Okay, if we could have a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Thank you. Have a second, please.
Second,
Okay, Joanne,
yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, any violation updates, Alex?
Getting some feedback. Thankfully tonight, no new violations to report to the commission.
Okay, and liaison report. So let's start with the easy part that we're going to, Greg's term is running out the end of this month, and he has indicated that he would like to be reappointed. So if somebody would like to nominate him for reappointment. And second,
I nominate Greg to serve on the Forest Committee and to continue his fine and upstanding tenure with that group.
great.
Second.
And is there a
Seconded.
second, please? Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And now we're looking to liaison reports. Greg, anything from the Forest Committee?
Nothing new. They're just watering the plants. But they
Okay. Well, that's good because we're in a drought. They probably need it.
Yeah.
Cinnamon, anything from open space?
Yes, we met open space on June 17th last week, and there is a little get together. It's Joanna Buffington is her tenure is done, so they're having a little get together Thursday night for her. Also, the Sandy Meadow sign is from last week. Do we have a date, Alex, for installation?
I don't have a date to report to the commission tonight, but that's the conversation I'll be having with the DPW.
Awesome. Also, the ADA trail looks like is to be started late fall, early winter, and Alex is going to re-engage with contractors on that. And we need to reapply to the state for the land management plan for Sandy Meadow. And we're going to be working on that. Joanna did give us a great jumping off piece that we're going to be working with. And that's about it.
Okay, I'm just going to update your celebration is for Joanna and me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But thank you. Okay. Alex, your hands up?
I just wanted to add on to Cinnamon's update. As the commission probably knows, the town undertook a multi-year sandplain heathland restoration project at Sandy Meadow. And from what we can tell, that project's been a great success. The state approvals for that, have lapsed, and so now we're reapplying, which is why we are, working on this updated land management plan to allow us to continue doing the maintenance work needed to sustain, the restoration efforts that we have completed on that property. AmeriCorps has been a huge asset to the town when it comes to the land management practices that we do out there. And so, as we're drafting up this updated land management plan, we're going to include the annual maintenance activities that we would like to continue out there. And so we're hopeful that we can get, approvals for this, later this year, so that this winter we can get back out to the property and continue the maintenance needs out there. Sorry, that was long-winded.
But very interesting. Okay, so strategic planning met last week. We're going to be presenting an update to the select board, I believe, at their first meeting in July, which then they can use to incorporate into their goal setting for the next year. The Climate and Energy Committee is going through the town climate plan and figuring out what are the highest 6 to 10 priority items from there which will be incorporated into the strategic plan coming up in the future. We did have a reorganization of the committee, and for the first time in 6 years, I am happy to say I am not the chair or vice chair. Michelle Bryan was going to be chair, and Patty Anderson will be vice chair going forward. So, and our next regular meeting is in September. So we might have an extra meeting when the climate committee is prepared for to discuss what they'd like to include. And that is liaison reports. And now any education and training updates from anybody? I'm going to say that the MACC is running a trial of their new invasive species management advanced level fundamentals class tomorrow, which I will be sitting in on. So that should be very interesting. They're going to be adding a couple of new advanced level training classes. I think soil is the other one. And that's all I've got to say for that. And then moving on to our other discussion, hiring a consultant for the review of 153 Brownell Road's notice of intent. And I'm going to ask Hillary if she wants to jump in here with us to discuss this. We had talked about needing to have a coastal geologist to review the site for stability in terms of how we're going to permit going ahead. And what we'd like to do at this meeting is get permission from the vote approval from the commission to go out and hire somebody. Hillary?
Yep, I think that is the process, and I think we'd probably go and seek quotes from 3 companies. We definitely want someone with a coastal geologist on board. We've got 2 companies in mind, and we're going to wrangle up a third and get the best rate and hopefully move forward with that. So once we have a proposal in from the company, we will share that with the commission, and then we vote to move forward.
Okay. You were going to reach out to a particular person. Did he? Have you done that?
We have not done that yet. I did see him on a meeting the other night, so it is on my list of things to do.
Okay. So tonight we just have to, I guess, vote to ask you guys to go out and get quotes.
Yep.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. Who pays for that? Is it the town?
The applicant.
The applicant pays.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I maybe if you look on the our website, the Conservation Commission or the Conservation Department website, there is a page called something about hiring consultants. Let me just go.
Okay.
Let me just go dig that up real quick. And that has all the rules and explains how it works. It would be under the bylaws, policies, and so on. It's called Rules for Hiring Outside Consultants. It's a PDF. And it's something that we voted for and adopted in July 2021. So it talks about the process and who pays and the fact that the applicants don't really have a choice in the matter.
Okay.
They can object to the cost. I believe it's the cost of it to the select board.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. And then they pay the money into an escrow account until the work is done. And then if there's any money left over at the end, they get that back and the consultant gets paid.
Mm-hmm.
And we
But
did discuss this at a prior meeting with the applicant present, and we did let them know that this was our intention, the one that their second attorney was present at.
Yeah.
So we did discuss that on February 10th when we did the first denial of the emergency certification, and again at the May 26th meeting. But I do suggest you read the document on hiring consultants. And it's definitely, I think we're all agreed that it definitely needs to be a coastal geologist.
Oh, yeah.
And it's important to get somebody with the right skill set, as we've in the past wound up with the wrong skill set. Man, it has not been helpful.
And I think, Karen, I would add, we could get a team where the team has a coastal geologist on board. So we could get a wetlands permitting specialist with a coastal geologist on the team. So we're going to probably get more than just a coastal geologist.
Mm-hmm. Somebody to review not just the coastal bank, but the whole application.
Yes, correct.
Right. That would be important, I think. Any other questions? Okay, so if we could have a motion let's see, the motion should be to instruct Alex and Hillary to go and seek out for us some bids for a team that includes a coastal geologist and a wetlands permitting specialist to work on 153 Brownell on our behalf under the consultant under the I'm tired. Under the rules for hiring outside consultants. It's been a long day.
So moved.
And is there a second, please?
Seconded.
Oh, thank you. Mike?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. And the reporter signed off before we got to this point, so he missed it. Okay, so I think we're done for the night. Are we done for the night?
Karen, this is Wayne.
Yes.
I have a motion.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy. Some may call it a locomotive.
A locomotion?
I know you get to like it.
Okay.
Someone please second that.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks.
Okay, so we need a motion to adjourn and a second, please.
Second.
Oh, nobody wants to motion tonight. What is it with that? Did I didn't hear a motion. I heard a second, but I didn't hear a motion. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
everybody. Happy World Cup watching.
Yeah.
Spartan Army.